locking the Canadian economy down. They should celebrate our worker, celebrate our Canadian industry, and celebrate our country.
The Finance Minister should know better. Those huge deficits, generational deficits, are what's driving inflation up in this country.
Now fixed. I don't know what he means when he says ideological.
By failing to eliminate these ideological taxes causing cascading affordability impacts to the ideological, almost hate-driven attacks on our wealth-creating natural resource sector, every problem we have started here at home in 2015.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That answer shows just how out of touch these Liberals are. That member represents a riding from Saskatchewan, which is the breadbasket of Canada and the world. Yet there has been 27 confirmed cases of scurvy in that member's riding. These aren't people who are coming over in wooden ships across the Atlantic in the 1600s. Unfortunately, this is just another day in Liberal Canada.
The honourable member for oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Control what happens abroad, but the Liberals do control the policies that they are imposing that make life more expensive, like the Liberal fuel standard. This is effectively another kind of carbon tax which adds 7 cents a litre and will rise to 17 cents a litre, meaning more costs for drivers, farmers, fishermen, and those who transport us our food. The Liberal Prime Minister is also hiking the industrial carbon tax on steel, aluminum, plastic, and farm equipment. These costs are imposed at home, not abroad, and paid for by Canadians. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and cancel their policies that make life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs. The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is an energy superpower, and last year Canadian oil production reached a record high. No one can predict the future of energy markets, but our allies are looking for stable, reliable energy supplies in an increasingly uncertain world. That's why we're fast-tracking projects like the Taylor to Gordondale pipeline. That's why we're fast-tracking projects like the Sunrise expansion. That's why the TMX optimization is moving forward. Mr. Speaker, we are helping solve the world's affordability problem.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Well, let's look at the facts. Among the G7, under this Liberal Prime Minister, Canada now has the worst food price inflation and the only economy that's shrinking. All of this has gotten worse since he became Prime Minister. Instead of helping lower prices by cancelling Liberal taxes, he's driving them even higher. When companies who process, transport, store, or sell food pay more, who does he think all those costs get passed on to? We cannot control what happens in other countries, but we can absolutely control whether or not to drive prices higher with tax increases. Why not at least give Canadians a break from Liberal taxes and cancel the fuel standard tax and the industrial carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's Monday. It seems that my colleague was missing in action. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we're taking back control. The first thing we did was to cut tax for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That is the very first thing we did. And just to correct the record, Mr. Speaker, Canada is projected to have the second fastest growth in the G7, Mr. Speaker. And this morning, Mr. Speaker, we had the G7 Finance Minister call. We're coordinating our action. We're going to take action together to make sure that we can bring energy to the world, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Meanwhile, here at home, Canadian families, seniors and businesses are still dealing with ideologically flawed economic policies, regulation and legislation that has seen the cost of everything, including food prices in Canada, rise 7.3% in January alone. Taxes imposed on our farmers, fishers, and those who transport our food, as well as the industrial carbon tax, which this Liberal Prime Minister keeps in place, have raised prices on everything made with steel, aluminum, and plastic. Why can't the Liberal Prime Minister do the right thing and remove these failed policies that have caused unnecessary hardship and make life more expensive for our people and our businesses?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when my colleague talks about ideological programs, I surely hope he's not talking about the National Child Care Plan, which has actually reduced costs for Ontario families by $16,000 per child per year here in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, I sure hope he's not talking about a school nutrition program, which families, experts, educators have all sung the praises of for ensuring kids get good food. I sure hope he's not talking about the dental care plan, which is helping low-income Canadians get their teeth fixed. I don't know what he means when he says ideological.
The honourable member for Barrie South Innisfil.
What I am talking about, Mr. Speaker, is our businesses and our people dealing with self-inflicted wounds, because they are. By failing to eliminate these ideological taxes causing cascading affordability impacts to the ideological, almost hate-driven attacks on our wealth-creating natural resource sector, every problem we have started here at home in 2015 and continues today under this Liberal Prime Minister. Our nation has the worst food inflation in the G7 and the only shrinking economy in the G7. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and caused by removing policies that have made life more expensive for our people and businesses?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, let me correct the record again. I know my colleagues like to say things in this hour, but you have to be credible. Canada will have the second fastest growth in the G7. That's what's reported by international agencies, Mr. Speaker. But when you're talking to Canadians, because it's Monday, Mr. Speaker, they should talk about the good news for Canadians. The good news is called the Canada Grocery and Essential Benefit, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we understand that we need to help people now, and it's really interesting to see the Conservative criticizing because they have voted against every program, Mr. Speaker, whether it's about farmer.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is Monday, and once again we get to hear the Minister of Finance's cassette tape there. Last night, Mr. Speaker, I was at the grocery store. The cost of groceries is constantly rising. Eating should not be a privilege. So many Canadians do not have access to this privilege. The cost of food has skyrocketed. If you go to the grocery store and you see a family with 2 boxes of ramen noodles in their grocery carts, it's just wrong. We have the worst food inflation in the G7. The government must take action. When will it eliminate the fuel tax? The Honourable Minister of Finance. I know my colleague likes repeating things. Perhaps he can repeat this to all his fellow citizens. The Canada Groceries and Essentials Benefit. That helps 12 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's something he can repeat everywhere he goes in his riding. If he wants to repeat a tape, then he should certainly use that tape, because that will help Canadians further, Mr. Speaker. When we spoke to the UPA, they said take structural measures, and that's exactly what we did. $500 million fund to be managed by my colleague to increase resilience and food security in this country. That's what taking action means. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, let's talk about action. Canada cannot control what the presidents in other countries do, but we can control our destiny. We have energy. Let's develop it. We have critical minerals. Let's access them quickly. We have a housing problem. Let's build houses. We have a food cost problem. Let's eliminate the industrial carbon tax. These are costs we have here at home, not abroad. I invite the Liberal government to use our solutions and implement them. We want to give Canadians some breathing room. When will the Liberal government finally take action? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Look, Mr. Speaker, I'm listening to my colleague. I think he must have read our game plan, except towards the very end. He's basically repeated what we've been saying daily. So there's still room on this side of the House if my colleague wants to join us.
Canada has the worst food inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7, and no wonder. The Liberals' increase in fuel standard is already costing Canadians 7 cents per litre today, and it will rise to 17 cents per litre by 2030, hitting the farmers, fishermen, and the truckers who put food on our tables. And these costs are entirely made in Ottawa by this Liberal government. If the Prime Minister is so focused on what we can control, then why doesn't he stop pointing fingers and scrap the taxes that are making life so unaffordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I know it's Monday, Mr. Speaker, and on Monday we expect good news. But, Mr. Speaker, what I think we should tell Canadians is actually what this government has been doing in order to make life affordable and this economy competitive. Mr. Speaker, this government has presented one of the most ambitious budget in our history, Mr. Speaker. Generational investment in infrastructure, generational investment in housing, generational investment in productivity and competitiveness, generational investment in our defense. Mr. Speaker, instead of talking the Canadian economy down, they should celebrate our worker, celebrate our Canadian industry, and celebrate our country.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Speaker, the Finance Minister should know better. Those huge deficits, generational deficits, are what's driving inflation up in this country. Now, going back to the cost of food, which was my initial question, they have also failed to drive competition. Instead of keeping these countless taxes on the building blocks of our food supply, they should address them. And the reality is, Mr. Speaker, Canada is falling behind, not because of global forces, but because of their choices. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and remove these policies that are driving up the cost of food for every Canadian?
Honorable Ministre des Finances.
Don't, Minister.
Speaker, on this side of the aisle, we will take responsibility for building the strongest economy of the G7. That I can tell, Mr. Speaker, we'll do that. And we'll do that with Canadian workers. We'll do that with Canadian industry. We'll do that with our partners around the world, Mr. Speaker. We just come from a mission in India and in Australia. I can tell you the world wants what Canada has to offer. We have highly skilled workers. We have strong industries, Mr. Speaker. We build boats, we build cars, we build ships. We have critical minerals. We have energy in abundance. And we are the only G7 country with a free trade with all G7 nations. Mr. Speaker, we believe in Canada on this side of the aisle.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals like to blame global pressures, but the policies driving up the cost of living in Canada are made right here in Ottawa. Canada now has the worst food price inflation in the G7 and the only shrinking economy in the G7. In Newfoundland and Labrador, nearly all groceries arrive by truck or ferry, yet the Prime Minister is pushing ahead with the newly renamed carbon tax, the clean fuel standard, which had 7 cents a litre climbing to 17. That will drive up the cost of transporting food right to the grocery shelf. When will the Liberals take responsibility for their policies and stop making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Speaker, I'm going to follow from my colleague next to me and talk about good news on a Monday. Bay du Nord project.
Yeah!
An example in Newfoundland and Labrador of getting workers on the job in our province, building our economy, building our infrastructure. This is a good news project. And I invite my colleague in the opposition from Newfoundland and Labrador to get on board.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, that's a complete deflection, but if that minister wants to talk about Bay du Nord, she knows it was the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador who fought to see that project move ahead. This government spent years creating barriers, and now that minister is trying to take credit. But that does not answer the question about the cost they are imposing today. Someone recently called my office and said he's been heating his room with his oven because he can't afford to put oil in his tank. When will they take responsibility for the policies they are imposing that is making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
I asked that member to speak with the CEO of Equinor to know who made that project possible. And then I'm going to say to her that I will never politicize the challenges that people have in our province and in this country and food security. And that's why the programs that we have in place are so important. Actual supports for families, for seniors. I invite this member, and I'm happy to bring her to speed on the programs that exist, but don't politicize what is so important to people's lives.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton-Bukidnon.
Mr. Speaker, we can't control what happens abroad, but the Liberals do control the policies that they are imposing that make life more expensive for Canadians. Today, we have the worst price inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Policies like the fuel standard that adds 7 cents a litre, rising to 17 cents, will apply to those who bring us our food, while the industrial carbon tax raises the price on steel, aluminum, plastic, and farm equipment. When will the Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and remove their policies that make life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the opposition talks the economy down, we are building it up. We have a plan to make life more affordable. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We eliminated the consumer carbon tax. We cut the GST for first-time homebuyers. We also have the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, which will add about $1,890 to an average family of 4 this year. Instead of talking the economy down, which is all they do, why don't they join us and build this country up?
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
But the Liberal Prime Minister allows these terrorists to stay in the country, is not deporting them. We need to be safe here and affordable. Have an affordable life. And before this war, the Prime Minister, this Liberal Prime Minister, delivered the worst food inflation in the G7. Inflation that has caused an increase in the cost of food higher than in other countries. It has to do with his own inflationary taxes and policies. Will he undo these inflationary taxes and policies so that Canadians can afford groceries? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government is taking action against the Revolutionary Guard Corps. There are 10,000 people who are disallowed from this country. We are taking action with respect to Canadians' spending power. We've reduced taxes for Canadians. We've increased benefits, food benefits. We have provided daycare to Canadian families.
Mr. Speaker, his solution to synagogues being shot up is to ban sections of the Jewish Torah. Mr. Speaker, that is not our solution on this side of the House. And that's according to his own immigration minister, his own heritage minister. We need to be safe at home. We need to be affordable at home. But even before this war broke out and raised gas prices, this Prime Minister doubled food price inflation and gave us the worst grocery price increases in all of the G7, so excuses about global impacts are not going to work. Will the Prime Minister reverse his new taxes on food, fuel, farmers, and fertilizer so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that the member opposite read the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which protects the Torah, which protects the Bible, which protects freedom of expression. This House should not be otherwise informed by possible misrepresentation. We should follow the true word that protects all Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the question was about food prices. This Prime Minister said he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Since he took office, food price inflation has doubled. And this Prime Minister has introduced new taxes that increase the fuel prices of the farmers that feed us. Now, 2.2 million people are lined up at food banks and faced with even worse fuel costs today. So will the Prime Minister the Liberal Prime Minister reverse his latest Liberal tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it feels like Groundhog Day. I'm once again required to remind the member opposite that the impact of the industrial carbon tax on fuel prices is approximately zero. The impact, though, of our trade deals on the farmers in his constituency is absolutely enormous. It is almost planting season, and the farmers of Alberta, Battle River, Crowfoot can plant canola.
Does the Prime Minister intend to propose any short-term measures to support those people who are directly suffering and will continue to further suffer from this war? I'm talking about inflation, buying power, retirees, access to property for young families. I'm referring, in fact, to all of these things that are not being solved or won't be solved in Norway over 5 years, but right now, right here, for citizens in Quebec and Canada. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the best option is de-escalation. is to have peace. That is the reason why I have conversations with other members of the G7, members of the Middle East, like Qatar, Oman, the UAE, the Prime Minister of Lebanon, and point, we need to use the G7's oil reserves.
Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. Record food bank usage, personal bankruptcy rates, and an increasing number of Canadians borrowing money to buy food are proof of that. While there are some things that are outside of our control, there are things that this government does control, like their new fuel tax, which is already raising the price of gas by 7 cents a litre and is set to climb up to 17 cents a litre, raising the cost of everything that Canadians buy. So when will the Liberals finally take responsible for their reckless policies and stop making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Let's be clear. Studies show that the impact of the industrial carbon price on food is zero. The clean fuel regulations do not impose a price at the pump. But what they do is create an impressive economy for our canola farmers. He should speak to the leader of his organization, of his Conservative Party. There's a canola crush plant in his constituency. Canada's largest renewable diesel facility is right on the edge of that riding. Canola farmers will see their price go up by $1.09 a bushel, according to the Biofuels Association.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack-Hope.
Every country in the G7 is facing external pressures, but this government stands alone in having created the worst food price inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Instead of making life more affordable, the Liberals are making it worse with their higher fuel and carbon taxes that are raising the cost for farmers, fishers, and truckers, driving up the cost of everything for cash-strapped Canadians. So why don't the Liberals finally focus on what they can control and get rid of these harmful policies that are punishing Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about what we can control. Building Cedar LNG, building wood fiber LNG, expanding Tilbury LNG, approving LNG Canada 2, approving Silicium, and approving the PRGT pipeline to the West Coast.
The Honourable Member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know we cannot control what happens abroad, but this government controls the policies here at home. Under this Liberal government, Canada now has the worst food price inflation in the G7 and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Our families, seniors, workers, and those who transport our food have no alternative but to use fuel. These costs are imposed here at home, not abroad. When will the Liberals end the era of self-sabotage and remove the policies that are driving up costs here at home?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, they seem to like to repeat their question, so let me repeat the answer. Studies have shown the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food. The clean fuel regulations do not impose a price right at the pump. And if you want to be really clear, it creates an economic opportunity. I would think that they would like to see that. In fact, according to the Advanced Biofuels Canada Association, it will create or preserve an average farm revenue by $60,000. That should mean something to the members opposite.
The Honourable Member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, tell that to the producers and farmers in Victoria, Carleton, and York counties in New Brunswick being hit by their newly renamed carbon tax, the Clean Fuel Standard, which adds 7 cents a litre. At the same time, the Liberals have raised the industrial carbon tax on steel, aluminum, and on farming equipment. All this is driving up costs for dairy, beef, and poultry producers in my region and throughout the country. These costs are imposed here at home. I ask again, when will the Liberals end their era of self-sabotage and remove the policies making life more expensive for all Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things
things we can't control in the world, but many things we can control. And what we can control is definitely how we build one Canadian economy. Good news is the manufacturing PMI. So basically the manufacturing new business activity, my colleague referred to steel, aluminum, auto, etc., is at a 13-month high. That means that businesses are now having more orders, more jobs are created. The tariff has impacted us, but you know what? We have a good plan, we're bouncing back, and we'll fight for jobs.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katascomique, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, I've spoken to farmers in my riding, and they're fed up. They constantly have to pay more and more for inputs such as gas, fertilizer, and farm equipment. And all because of liberal taxes like the carbon tax and this clean fuel tax. And meanwhile, grocery prices are rising for everyone, and bills are skyrocketing, and it's hurting every family's wallet. When will this Liberal government finally stop hammering those who keep our communities alive and get rid of this inflationary taxation? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To correct the facts that we hear over on the other side, it's not because you repeat something every day at question period that it means it's real. Based on all legitimate analyses, to make things clear, the influence of what he's referring to is zero. But there are some things we can control, some things we can't. But they should perhaps look at how they vote. They voted against a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, against other measures for children throughout the country, against the grocery benefit that will give families $1,800 per year this year. They should correct their own message and support the government.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister had 4 flip-flops on Iran in just the same number of days. This is a pattern. He's also flip-flopped on oil and gas. He wrote a book called Values, in which he said he wanted to keep 50% of our energy in the ground. He said in that book he wanted to raise carbon taxes. And then he claimed that he had flip-flopped on that, while he's since kept in place every anti-development law that Trudeau passed. He has renamed the carbon tax, and he's brought in an industrial carbon tax that has driven away an $8 billion project. So will he flip-flop again, reverse these Liberal policies so that we can actually supply the world with the energy it needs in this critical time?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate receiving this gift on this day honoring Ireland. Canada is increased at record levels our oil exports. Canada has approved under this government Silicim. Canada has approved and started one of the biggest LNG. Canada is working to the lowest carbon LNG and the lowest carbon oil exports in the world. We will maintain and increase our competitive position. We're driving straight forward.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, he's driving in circles. He said that he did not want, he wanted to keep 50% of our oil in the ground. He supported blocking the pipeline to the Pacific. He's not approved a single oil pipeline, and his major projects office has not approved a project of any kind. He's just tried to take credit for a project approved by Prime Minister Harper. Next, he'll be trying to claim credit for the Canadian Pacific Railway. So will the Prime Minister flip-flop again? Reverse his support of an industrial carbon tax, the Liberal anti-development laws, and get out of the way so that we can build pipelines to the Pacific, power paychecks for our people.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said in my book, as it is the policy of this government, we want the lowest risk, the lowest carbon, the lowest cost oil and gas, and that's what makes ours competitive. That's the story of Canadian LNG. That's the story of the MOU with Alberta. That is the story of Bay du Nord. That is how you drive the country forward, not off a cliff like the member opposite.
I'm hearing a little too much of the member for Vernon Lake Country Monastery. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the world cannot put meaningless pieces of paper and meaningless MOUs in their gas tanks. They need real energy that comes out of our ground. The Prime Minister said he wants to keep it in the ground, and yet today we had the hilarious spectacle of the Liberal Natural Resource Minister saying Canada will do what it can to help with its stockpiles for the current energy shortage. Our stockpiles are zero, Mr. Speaker. So will the Prime Minister flip-flop again, adopt my policy that we should have a strategic oil and mineral reserve so that we can supply the world in the future?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's many policies of the member opposite I will not adopt. One of them is flip-flopping, jumping around, searching for ridings every election. The second thing I will not adopt is the importance of having the most competitive oil and gas in the world. Our oil exports have never been higher under this government, over 5 million barrels per day, and they will increase because they will be low carbon, low cost, low risk. Hear, hear.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes he makes it too easy. Today we have zero oil stockpiles. We have a strategic maple syrup stockpile, Mr. Speaker, which the Prime Minister could use to put maple syrup on the pancakes that he flip-flops on. But, Mr. Speaker, we don't have any oil to supply to the world in the time of this crisis. Will he reverse the anti-development policies that he has supported that has come from the previous Liberal government in order to unlock our production, power the world, and the paychecks here at home?
The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is the way the G7 oil reserve works. If you're an importer, you have to have an oil reserve. If you're an exporter, which Canada is under this government, if you have record exports, which Canada is under this government, that is how you supply the world. I salute the work of the Minister of Natural Resource and the Minister of Finance, working with G7 counterparts, confirmed with my G7 leader counterparts today to release 400 million barrels from that strategic reserve.
To release 400 million barrels of oil from that strategic stockpile, how many of those are coming from Canada? Exactly zero. And the Prime Minister's excuse, the reason why we have no stockpiles, he says, is because we're a producer of oil. This is exactly the opposite of logic. The United States is a producer of oil. They have stockpiles. We have reserves, which the Prime Minister is successfully keeping in the ground. Just last week, we saw an $8 billion project canceled under his watch. We're importing gas from Australia. Why won't he get out of the way so we can produce our own energy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite thinks he's on a rich vein, but he's tapping a dry well. Under this government, production has never been so high. Exports have never been so high. We approve Bay du Nord. We are working with the province of Alberta to produce the lowest cost, lowest carbon oil and gas. We are expanding our exports. We are expanding our future.
Hear, hear. Countless seniors in Newmarket Aurora come up and tell me that they've had to leave retirement and find jobs because they're struggling to eat, heat, and afford a roof over their head. And this reality is backed up by data. A new survey from the National Institute on Aging revealed that 1 in 5 Canadians over the age of 50 are living near the poverty line and cannot even cover a $500 emergency. So when will the Prime Minister stop punishing seniors and scrap inflationary Liberal taxes that are making life so unaffordable?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, this is what Canadians understand. There's a major international war raging. Canadians understand that our allies' supply of energy and their national security are being threatened. Canadians also understand that our actions are limiting those shortages and reducing the impact on prices. Oil production is at an all-time high. Natural gas pipelines are full. Exports on the TMX pipeline are up 100% in the last year. Our LNG facility, the second largest in the world, is now shipping at capacity.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to the member, during all my studies and over 15 years working in finance, there's one basic economic truth that always held. When costs go up, prices go up. When competition is fierce, prices come down. Yet during this food affordability crisis, the Liberals are inhibiting competition, all while piling on taxes and regulation on those who grow, ship, and sell our food. So when will this Prime Minister finally apply this basic economic fundamental, cut taxes and regulations so Canadians can get real relief at the grocery aisle?
The Honourable Minister.
What Canadians understand is when they have good-paying jobs, they can afford things. We are building LNG Canada. We are building Cedar LNG.
Yeah, there should not be anyone standing on this side. There should not be anyone standing. Only the minister should be standing responding. The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, through the Major Projects Office, we are giving Canadians good-paying jobs. We are helping them afford the groceries they need, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent.
Our farmers and fishermen are being punished with unreliable fertilizer supplies and a rising fuel tax to 17 cents that's driving up the cost of everything. Instead of supporting, the Liberals have shuttered agricultural research stations and fueled the G7's worst food inflation. It's outrageous that while he plays economist, 1 in 5 Canadians over 50 is now trapped in poverty, choosing between eating and heating. When will this Liberal Prime Minister accept responsibility for what he can control, scrap the Liberal taxes and policies that are making life unaffordable for Canadians?
Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, let me say it once again. Studies show that the impact of the industrial carbon price on the price of food is zero. But if we want to talk about how we're supporting Canadians and Canadian food security, the member from Chatham-Kent Leamington might be interested in what we're doing to support greenhouse production. It's a big thing in his area, helping farmers in his areas. We're supporting greenhouse farmers with investments and tax incentives to increase capacity and production. That will help Canadian food security. And if you want to talk about taxes, the first thing that this government did, we cut them.
Excellent. The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what 15 national ag organizations wrote to the committee. They wrote and said that closing ag research centres will undermine research that they say is fundamental to keeping food affordable. At the same time, the Liberal government is pushing ahead with their fuel tax, which is rising from 7 to 17 cents per litre, while also raising the carbon taxes on steel, aluminum, plastic and farm equipment. All of these Liberal decisions have a direct impact on Canada's ag sector, causing production costs to rise, which get passed on to Canadians at the grocery store. These costs are imposed at home, not abroad. When will these Liberals stop driving up food prices for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we can't continue down the path. We must change our direction and relevance to research, Mr. Speaker. Let me quote some of the numbers, Mr. Speaker, over the past few years. The research and development system is becoming less diverse. Public investment in agriculture knowledge generation, which includes R&D, has declined by 15%. Private sector outsourced R&D to universities is down 77%. And the number of enterprises conducting research and development has shrunk by 30%. If the other side want to continue down this path, it will put us at an unfair advantage politically, economically, and universally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, a community member wrote to me about what they are seeing every day. Frail seniors standing outside grocery stores begging for help. Canadians lining up at food banks after a lifetime of work. The National Institute on Aging states 1 in 5 Canadians over 50 are now living at the poverty line. Many cannot afford groceries, heating their homes, essential goods and services, or even a $500 emergency. Rising costs are not driven by events abroad. They are the result of policies imposed here, at home, that continue to make life more expensive. Are the Liberals really telling Canadian families and seniors that they should just lower their standards and accept that life is permanently unaffordable?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected a government that they know they can rely on to support the social fabric of this country, including supporting our seniors. That's why we introduced legislation to reduce taxes for nearly 22 million Canadians. We made the National School Food Program permanent. We launched the Canada Disability Benefit. We ensured that old age security would continue for those who are 65. And let me tell you what seniors like Dava Houston are saying. I'm seeing a lot of talk from the Conservatives about the grocery rebate helping no one. As a senior, I disagree. This benefit is specifically targeted to help those of us on fixed incomes.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyendinaga.
1 in 5 seniors can't afford necessities like food and housing. Women, renters, and seniors with health challenges are being hit the hardest, living at conditions comparable to the poverty line, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government often blames global pressures when the fact is Canada has the worst food price inflation in the G7. Their Prime Minister's rebranded carbon tax, now increasing to 17 cents a litre, is a policy entirely within his control. Will the Prime Minister take responsibility, scrap the taxes and cut regulations that are driving up the food prices, and start making life more affordable for Canadians that are struggling?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, just yesterday I heard a Conservative member of Parliament say that helping people was ideological. So maybe they should get together and talk to each other. Because if you think that helping people fix their teeth is ideological, or feeding a hungry kid at school is ideological, or cutting taxes is ideological, or having childcare that costs people $16,000 less a year is ideological, then I actually think you're out to lunch.
Speaker are out to lunch.
Certainly not
You're
me.
out to lunch.
Certainly not. The member didn't mean me.
Buckley might be out to lunch, but not the Speaker.
The honourable member for Richmond Centre, Marlpole.
Mr. Speaker, what happens abroad may be beyond our control, but the Liberal policies making life more expensive are not. Our seniors are paying the price. Seniors being forced to work with retirement, slipping further out of reach. The National Institute on Aging reports that 1 in 5 Canadians over 50 is now living on the poverty line. Yet the Liberals are making it worse by sneaking in carbon taxes that drive up the price of essentials. When will the Prime Minister take responsibility for what he can control and scrap the Liberal policies that are making life unaffordable for Canadians, including seniors?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The member talks about seniors who are struggling in his community. They're struggling in my community too. We have to acknowledge that. At the same time, what do we do to help those seniors? We put forward a serious plan for the future, an opportunities agenda that is focused on getting our resources to market, building up the infrastructure to do it. That's how you build an opportunities agenda, as I say, that has purchasing power attached to it because it leads to jobs. We talk about the programs, pensions that they want to cut, by the way. All of that relies on a strong economy. That's exactly what this government is focused on delivering.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-Chemin-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, according to the National Institute on Aging, 1 in 5 Canadians over 50 is now living in conditions comparable to the poverty line. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is pursuing his fuel regulations. The cost is going from 7 to 17 cents. When will the Prime Minister finally step up, stop denying reality, and get rid of these taxes that are making Canadians and Quebecers poorer? The Honourable Minister of Climate Change and the Environment. Mr. Speaker, once again, I must say very clearly that studies show that the industrial carbon tax does not cause food prices to go up. The impact is zero. Let me be very clear for everyone who's listening. But what we are doing is that we are investing in farmers throughout the country to ensure that we have good food for everyone in the country. The Honourable Member. Zero, Mr. Speaker, is actually their grade. Canada has the worst food inflation in the G7, and the government keeps ratcheting up the industrial carbon tax on steel, aluminum, plastics, and agricultural equipment, which is making costs go up throughout the supply chain. When will the government finally get rid of these taxes on food so that Canadians can finally have a more affordable lifestyle? The Honorable Secretary of State. Well, I don't think our score is 0, Mr. Speaker. All that we've done since we were elected was to give more purchasing power to Canadians, especially seniors. Once again, the Canada Child Benefit, yes, that's not for seniors, but it does represent significant gain in purchasing power. And more recently, the groceries benefit will give people more purchasing power to help them face the current world global situation, as everyone knows.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Yesterday, the Minister of Natural Resources made the absurd promise that Canada will, quote, do its part to help stabilize global oil markets. But Canada can't do its part because after a decade of liberal energy policies, we don't have a strategic oil reserve. When allies need energy and markets need stability, Canada has nothing to offer but the minister's promises. Conservatives have proposed a strategic reserve to fuel our allies abroad and give Canada real leverage, especially at times like these. So will the Liberals adopt our plan so that Canada can be stronger at home and more reliable abroad?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, let me explain to the member opposite the way the IEA works. Net importers have strategic oil reserves. Net exporters do not. That is how it works, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Let me explain something back. Just because you don't have to do something, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, especially when you lead your allies to believe that you will. We have a name for that. But the Liberals cannot paper over a 10-year record of shutting down the oil and gas sector, leaving our country weaker, more dependent, and unable to step up when it matters. They can say the words, they can sign the MOUs, but we all know that the minister's new project office hasn't approved a single new project. So will the government finally scrap the anti-pipeline law, repeal the emissions cap, lift the tanker ban, approve real projects so we can get Canadians to work and be there for our allies?
The Honourable Minister.
Apparently, Mr. Speaker, they don't agree with the Premier of Alberta that now is the time to build. This new Liberal government signed it and will deliver against the promise of the Canada MOU. We will build strong with Indigenous peoples. That's why Canadians elected the new Prime Minister, because the new Prime Minister knows how to work with the premiers, knows how to work with Indigenous peoples to build things. Unfortunately, the leader of the opposition does not. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawanrak. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Natural Resources Minister promised that Canada was going to do its share to free up oil reserves to stabilize the market. That's a good idea, Mr. Speaker, but the only problem is we don't have a strategic oil reserve. Why? Because for 10 years, these people across the way from me dealt with Canadian oil in a certain way. We, on our side, propose a stockpile for oil reserves and critical minerals. Will the Prime Minister say yes to building wealth and this incredibly important leverage in an uncertain world? Mr. Speaker, with respect to creating an energy superpower, that's what we're doing. The minister just explained that exporting countries generally do not have reserves, but importing countries do. Canada will also be a renewable energy superpower, whether we're talking about selling uranium, supporting renewable energy and technology throughout this country. Canada is an energetic superpower, conventional and renewable, and will remain that way. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawanrak. The Minister of National Resources has only been here for a year, but this minister has been here for 10 years. Over those 10 years, him and his colleagues had contempt for Canada energy, and today all Canadians are paying the price for that. Also, Mr. Speaker, there is a food inflation problem here. Canada is a great country in the G7, but has the worst food inflation, 7.3%. Result, Mr. Speaker, families of Saint-Georges-de-Beauce go grocery shopping, and 50 kilometers away, it costs them less expensive on the other side of the border. Why do Canadians have to pay more for their groceries? Mr. Speaker, my colleague, who has also been here for 10 years, also has a record. He systematically voted against any support that was needed to support Canadians against price increases, voted against dental care, nutrition in schools, the Canada Child Benefit. This member systematically voted against all of this, Mr. Speaker. Not one support for one Canadian that he's approved. When will they start to do what's right?
For Grand Prairie.
Mr. Speaker, we can't control what's happening abroad, but we can fix things here at home. The majority of Canadians now report that they're worse off today than when this Prime Minister took office. And, Mr. Speaker, they're right. Under his leadership, Canada now has the worst food price inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. This Liberal Prime Minister was warned that imposing his industrial carbon tax and adding a fuel standard tax that's now at 7 cents, that he's rising to 17 cents a litre, would drive up prices, but he did it anyway, Mr. Speaker. Canadians can't afford this. When will this Prime Minister remove his inflationary taxes so Canadians can afford to eat?
Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thanks for taking up, Mr. Speaker. Well, that leader, the Conservative leader was in Europe trying to reboot his tarnished image, meeting with leaders who wondered why he was even there. Do you know where our Prime Minister was? He was in the Indo-Pacific signing trade deals. Wow. Japan, Australia, India. How about $2.6 billion on uranium from Saskatchewan? Did those Saskatchewan members even comment on that? Premier Scott Moe certainly supported it. On this side of the House, we're going to continue to build our economy. That side is full of rhetoric and obstruction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Grand Prairie.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if you believe that answer, I've got some oceanfront property I'll sell you in Alberta. Because, Mr. Speaker, everyone knows that when the government charges higher fuel and carbon taxes on fertilizer, fuel, and equipment for farmers, food processors, and truckers, it drives up the cost of food. And it's going to get worse as long as these Liberals keep on hiking these taxes. Canada now has the highest food price inflation and the worst shrinking economy in the G7. It's gotten worse since this Prime Minister took office. We can't control what's happening abroad, but we can fix things here at home. Why won't these Liberals reverse their taxes so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, I'm standing up for my daily reminder that studies show that the industrial carbon price adds zero to the cost of food. So if they want to speak about taxes, though, I can point out that on this side of the House, what did we do? We cut them. If they want to talk about imaginary taxes, go ahead. But we're going to make sure that we support Canadians with real measures.
The Liberals blame the world for the fact that families are struggling more than ever to make ends meet. But it's actually this government's policies here at home that are driving up the cost of food. Canada has the highest food inflation rate out of the G7, and a big factor in this is the hidden carbon tax, also known as the clean fuel standard. It's making life more expensive because it's driving up the cost of fuel for trucks and farmers and fishermen. And so when will the Liberals take responsibility for their own actions here at home and take off these taxes that are punitive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, it seems like the members opposite from the Conservative Party have a big interest in clean fuel standards. So let me talk to them and to their constituents about the opportunities that are created by this. Because canola farmers in Alberta will actually see an increase in the value of their product. They will actually see an increase in their farm revenue. We actually see the Imperial Diesel renewable diesel facility that's going to use up or require 50% of the canola that's produced in Alberta. This is an opportunity for farmers in her riding and all of the rest of her caucus members. We stand up for Alberta.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Of touch with the people in Western Canada, and I would dare say all Canadians would like them to believe that there's a benefit to this tax, that there's a benefit to driving up the cost of groceries and forcing seniors have to choose between groceries and their medication, or having families choose between are they going to give their daughter formula or are they going to cut back on the essential amount. These are the types of tough decisions that our Canadians are making. And the minister says that this is an opportunity for them. An opportunity. When will this government listen to Canadians, see Canadians for what they're saying and the challenges that they're facing, and do something about it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, judging from recent opinion polling, it is not us who is out of touch with the people of Alberta, Mr. Speaker. It is, in fact, this Liberal government that is delivering on the promise of a memorandum of understanding with the province of Alberta. It is this government that is making markets and creating revenues and increasing the incomes of canola farmers across Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. The question is for the opposition, when will they get behind this Western Canadian agenda?
The Honourable Member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians watching know this government always has an excuse ready. But they can't keep passing the buck when we have the highest food inflation and the worst economic growth in the G7. Backward Liberal policies imposed domestically, like the industrial carbon tax and the fuel standard tax, are harming our economy and making life more expensive for Canadians. Enough excuses. Will the Liberals scrap these self-inflicted taxes they are forcing on Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, enough excuses, enough rhetoric from that side of the House. This is a government that is supporting Canadians right across the country. We have delivered on the groceries benefit, which in my riding is going to help over 30,000 of my constituents. I expect it's similar in that member's riding as well, Mr. Speaker. That benefit is going to help deliver close to $1,900 this year for a family of 4. It's the kind of part of our plan that is making an actual difference in the lives of Canadians. So when are these Conservatives going to get on board and back us up?
The Honourable Member for Newtecumseh-Gwillimbury.
Well, Mr. Speaker, how can Canada stand on its own 2 feet in the world if the Liberals keep cutting our legs out from under us? Amid global instability, the government should be doing everything it can to make life more affordable right here at home. But Liberal taxes are leaving Canadians more exposed to global shocks, conflicts, and decisions by foreign governments. When will the Liberals stop making excuses and scrap these taxes?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. The Honourable Honourable.
I know the member is a man of good spirit and good heart. Let me help him with his talking points, Mr. Speaker. Canada has the second fastest growth in the G7, Mr. Speaker. The lowest net to deficit, Mr. Speaker. We have one of the lowest deficit to GDP, Mr. Speaker. He should rejoice about the place of Canada in the world, Mr. Speaker. We have the most educated workforce. We have strong industry. We have critical minerals. We have energy. We have trade agreement. We have everything, Mr. Speaker, to lead in the world of the 21st century. We believe in Canada and this.
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals like to blame everyone else for rising food prices, but it's their own policies here at home that are driving them up. Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Instead of helping, Liberals are now adding new fuel costs, which will rise from 7 to 17 cents a litre. For every new tax, that increases planting, harvesting, and transporting food. Farmers cannot absorb it, and consumers cannot afford it. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, flip-flop again, scrap these costly policies, and finally show some mercy to the hardworking Canadian families and the farmers who feed them.
Before the member starts, I just want to remember, the member for Kelowna, just a reminder that we address the chair. We're not addressing any member of this House directly, and I'll just remind the member of that too. So the Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. More good news, as my colleague likes to say. The headlines in the newspapers in Saskatchewan: Saskatchewan grain terminal seeing increase in canola sales, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan's optimistic on oil and gas. Saskatchewan is building, Mr. Speaker. Why is Saskatchewan building? Because Canada works. That was a message we heard from the Conservative opposition for the last 10 years. I'm here to say, Saskatchewan, we love you, and everything that we do it for you.
The honourable member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That answer shows just how out of touch these Liberals are. That member represents a riding from Saskatchewan, which is the breadbasket of Canada and the world. Yet there has been 27 confirmed cases of scurvy in that member's riding. These aren't people who are coming over in wooden ships across the Atlantic in the 1600s. Unfortunately, this is just another day in Liberal Canada. When will this government be morally or ethically serious and stop these crazy policies that are driving up food inflation in Canada?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Mr. Speaker, I've been trying to speak with our Premier, Scott Moe, in Saskatchewan, but I can't get a hold of him. He's too busy signing deal after deal with their Prime Minister. Which means benefits after benefits after benefits for the Saskatchewan people. And any day of the week, Mr. Speaker, I will compare our Prime Minister and our government's ability, credibility, and capability versus a phantom plan designed by an anonymous economist and led by someone that never worked in the private sector before, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Lefield. Mr. Speaker, the rising cost of living is hitting constituents, Quebecers and Canadians hard.
On continue à parler du dernier échange.
This is still the last exchange.
Oui, on va se calmer. L'honorable.
Yes.
Oh. Oui, peut-être. On va...
Perhaps we might have to extend question period.
L'honorable.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Lefield. Mr. Speaker, the rising cost of living is hitting my constituents, Quebecers and Canadians hard. We have the worst food inflation in the G7. Despite this, the Liberals are determined to make life even more difficult by increasing the fuel tax, which is already rising from 7 to 17 cents per litre. This leads to higher prices for our farmers. When will the government put an end, once and for all, to these taxes that are a burden on Canadian families? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With all the respect I have for my colleagues, I'm sad to hear him rise here in the House, whereas when he had all these opportunities to defend his constituents, to fight for affordability, the cost of living, their buying power, he always failed to sign on. The benefit, the groceries benefit, he didn't sign on for that. The increase in the child benefit, a tax cut for the middle class, Mr. Speaker, and not just that. The Saguenay work that's been done that's good for his economy and the economy in Quebec.
February's job numbers are crushing. 108,000 full-time jobs lost, the largest collapse in full-time employment since 2020, since COVID. Youth unemployment is more than 14%. Canada now has the second highest unemployment and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Let's be clear, it's because of Liberal policies the private sector is hemorrhaging jobs, making the affordability crisis more acute. Will the Liberals admit Conservatives were right, scrap their carbon and fuel taxes that are killing Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Finance.
Canadians all across this country know that we were thrust into a trade war not of our choosing. Our government is doing everything in its power, using every lever at our disposal to support the Canadian economy and insulate it from further shocks that are, again, beyond our control. What we are doing is diversifying trade. While the Leader of the Opposition was trotting around London, giving speeches on free markets, trying to impress Liz Truss, Our Prime Minister was signing tens of billions of dollars in new trade deals to create more opportunities for Canadians.
The numbers don't lie. The levers that the Liberals are pulling are obviously wrong. Right. 73,000 private sector jobs lost, youth unemployment at more than 14%. It is clear that young Canadians are being locked into the workforce, can't afford housing, and can't afford food while the Prime Minister jet sets to cocktail parties with global elites. Will the Liberals admit that their policies and fiscal plan has failed? Will they adopt the Conservative Youth Jobs Plan that will give Canadian youth hope to build a future here at home?
Here, here.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Finance.
Will never adopt a Conservative plan because they don't have a plan.
That's right.
They don't propose anything that works on behalf of Canadians that will deliver results for them. Our plan is the plan that we're following. Right. That's the plan that Canadians voted for. That's the plan that's working to create jobs for Canadians. And yes, there's choppy waters. We're in a trade war that was not of our choosing, but we're using every lever at our disposal to ensure that Canadians can get ahead.
Here, here.
We've offered affordability measures and are signing tens of billions of dollars of new trade agreements to create opportunities for all Canadians.
Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
While the Prime Minister travels the world promoting Brookfield's interests like he's their PM, portfolio manager, here at home, shocking is the only way to describe this morning's job numbers. 84,000 Canadians lost their jobs in February. 108,000 jobs were lost in full-time work, while private sector employment fell by 73,000. Employment mostly fell among men aged 25 to 54, the core working age group, and young people between the ages of 15 and 24. Why can't the Liberals finally admit everything they're doing is an illusion and it's failing Canadian families and young people?
Our overseas efforts are delivering concrete results. Last week in India, we secured a $2.6 billion uranium deal. This is not about the billions, it's about the 90,000 plus nuclear workers in Ontario that it's powering. In Australia, the Prime Minister secured a commitment of $10 billion to build major projects across this country. And VistaJet, based in the Gulf, recently placed an order for 40 Canadian-made planes valued over $1 billion. This is about the thousands of workers producing the world-class goods that the world is buying. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, here at home, our people want to work. They want to produce and they want to provide for their families. Young people want a family and a home for their kids to grow up in. And because of the last 11 years of Liberal failures, a generation has lost hope that that will ever happen. Today's job numbers are a national crisis. Maybe the Prime Minister can focus once not on his Brookfield interests abroad, but what's happening here at home and work with Conservatives to solving this job crisis impacting Canadian families and our young people.
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Regulations and Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while their leader tours Europe trying to reboot his image for the fourth time, our Prime Minister just returned from Indo-Pacific, signing trade deals with world leaders. Let's talk about $2.6 billion in uranium for Saskatchewan. Wow. Premier Moe certainly supported it. We didn't hear a word from any Saskatchewan MP on that side. No. On this side of the House, we're serious about building the strongest economy in the G7. It's time for that leader, that party, to stop the rhetoric, stop the obstruction, help us build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Étrements-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the February's job report is concerning. In just 1 month, this government has seen 108,000 full-time jobs lost. This is our worst decline since the 2020 pandemic. While our G7 partners are moving forward, Canada is the only economy that is falling behind. We're still waiting for the results this government promised Canadians. The Liberals' economic policy is a failure. Can they stop punishing job creators? And can they eliminate the taxes and bureaucracy that are destroying jobs in Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister. Mr. Speaker, of course, the jobs result of the last couple of months are negative, and we're aware of this. Why? Why are we here? There is a trade war with our American neighbours. That's something our Conservative friends across the way have a hard time understanding, because it's difficult to send our exports to Canada. Businesses will not invest, and that's the heart of the problem, not Canadian taxes, American tariffs. The The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Chemin-Lévis. Businesses don't invest because there's no confidence. Young people are victims of the government's economic incompetence. In February, youth unemployment climbed to over 14%. In Quebec, 57,000 jobs disappeared in just 1 month. If young people don't have jobs, it's because Liberal policies aren't working. While the Liberals pat themselves on the back, our young people are wondering how they're going to pay the rent. Will the government stop denying the obvious, listen to the Conservatives, and implement our plan? We give them all of our ideas. Why don't they implement them? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Implementing the Conservative plan. But what plan? There is no plan. Because for the Conservatives, everything has to do with the industrial carbon tax. That's it. That's all. Come on. We announced an industrial policy for defense, a defense industrial policy that is of great deal of interest on the part of SMEs in Quebec and Canada. We massively invested. The Prime Minister announced investments in the North, in infrastructure. We are currently transforming the Canadian economy.
Mr. Speaker, this morning's job numbers are a scathing indictment of this Liberal government's economic performance. 108,000 full-time jobs lost, the largest one-month drop since the beginning of COVID, and youth unemployment is now over 14%. We have the only shrinking economy in the G7, and we have the second highest unemployment. So, will the Liberals accept our Conservative proposals, including our youth jobs plan, and remove the taxes, red tape, and bureaucracies that are killing Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, as the Honourable Opposition knows, there's a war raging that's affecting prices everywhere. In this chaos, Canada's in a strong position. Why? Because we prepared. We invested in jobs and industries like auto, steel, and aluminum. We made sure to keep life affordable for all Canadians with our food, groceries, and essentials benefit for 12 million Canadians. We're cutting taxes. You know why, Mr. Speaker? We have a plan. Preparing before a crisis is our way. Complaining after a crisis is theirs. Get on board.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, talk about before the crisis. For 10 years, this Liberal government has passed anti-development laws, run up the national debt, driven down productivity, driven up the cost of living, bloated the bureaucracy, enriched Liberal insiders, and made Canada the only G7 country with a shrinking economy. Today's job numbers are the result of a decade of failure and lost opportunity, and this Liberal Prime Minister is still taxing, spending, and regulating like the last one. So will they commit today to cut taxes and regulations so Canadians can get back to work?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Breaking news for the Honourable Member. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. Breaking news for this, the Honourable Member. Our food and groceries essential will help 12 million Canadians put food on the table. Breaking news, we have made it easier for first-time home buyers. Breaking news, we are helping families. We are investing in our defense. This is what a plan is like when we knew there was a crisis. We prepared for a crisis. Complaining afterwards with no plan is not helping Canadians.
The Honourable Member Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Tyondinaga.
February's job numbers send a troubling signal for Canada's economy. More than 100,000 full-time jobs have disappeared. Youth unemployment has climbed above 14%, and our economy is now among the weakest performers in the G7. Young Canadians are trying to start their careers at a time when opportunity is sinking. Mr. Speaker, when will this Liberal government start working with opposition to advance practical solutions, including our youth jobs plan, and to remove taxes and red tape that is making it harder for businesses to create jobs?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Finance.
Conservatives live under a rock. We are in a trade war. We have a war raging in the Middle East. Those are not of our choosing. Those global issues and forces, just to explain causality, are not the fault of the federal government. There are factors in the world that are affecting the Canadian economy. We are moving through a period of unprecedented economic turbulence. Canadians don't want politicians to stand up in this House and celebrate job losses for political gain. They want a serious government doing serious work to help them get ahead, and that's what we're doing.
Mr. Speaker, February's job report demands serious attention. Instead, Canadians are hearing dismissive responses to legitimate concerns. This government's very own data shows that last month's decline in full-time employment was the largest decline outside of COVID since 2009. Canadians were promised strong economic leadership. Mr. Speaker, if this Liberal government can't deliver jobs, growth, or hope for the next generation, why should Canadians have any confidence that their economic plan will work at all?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency.
Mr. Speaker, despite the Conservative rhetoric, look, we know that we're in a trade war. We know our economy has challenges. But last April, Canadians elected a leader with world-class business and economic experience versus a Conservative leader who's never worked one day in the economy. In fact, the only job he's ever created was one for the member of Carleton. So, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to focus on our economy. We're going to build our economy into the strongest one in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
The February No Jobs report shows the Liberal policies aren't working for Canadians. 108,000 full-time jobs lost, the largest one-month decline in full-time employment since 2020. Youth unemployment shot up by 14%. We have the only shrinking economy in the G7, and now we have the second highest unemployment. Canadians aren't working because Liberal policies aren't working. When will the Liberals accept Conservative proposals, including our youth jobs plan, and remove taxes and bureaucracies that are killing Canadian jobs?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are creating high-paying jobs for young people with our investments in housing. Build Canada Homes will invest $13 billion in housing. It will catalyze new methods of construction.
The February jobs report is dire news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Canada lost 108,000 full-time jobs in February. This is the largest one-month decline in full-time employment since COVID. Further, we saw 73,000 job losses in the private sector, and youth unemployment shot up to over 14%. Under these Liberals, Canada has the only shrinking economy in the G7, and now the second highest unemployment in the G7 as well. So, Mr. Speaker, when will the Liberals listen to Canadians and the plan that we've put forward to remove taxes and the bureaucracies that are killing jobs in Canada?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Obviously, the jobs data that came out this morning, Mr. Speaker, is unfortunate, but the Conservatives can fixate on month-to-month data. They never mention, or their script never recites, anything on long-term trends. What did we see just a few days ago? An announcement very clear in Bloomberg. My colleague can go look at it. The largest amount of foreign investment that Canada has seen since 2007 secured for this country. That means jobs. That means opportunities for young people in particular. What did we see yesterday? A huge investment in Canada's north. Ports, airports, the construction of the Mackenzie Valley Highway, and the securing of Canada's north. That's how you build Canada.
The Honourable Member for Kenora-Kiwatina.
Mr. Speaker, the difference between the Liberal rhetoric and the realities facing Canadians is stark. Canadians aren't working because Liberal policies aren't working. We have the only shrinking economy in the G7, and now the second highest unemployment in the G7. And to make matters worse, Mr. Speaker, Canada has the highest food price inflation in the G7 on top of it. We are leading in all of the wrong categories. So when will the Liberals remove the taxes and bureaucracies that are killing jobs in Canada and driving up the cost of living?
Parliamentary Secretary.
My colleague is very well read. He will look at the recent reports of the International Monetary Fund that has made clear that Canada stands as an example for the G7 and, in fact, for the entire OECD and beyond. What we have now is an opportunity to engage in serious policy to build up this country. I mentioned the investments in Canada's north yesterday. We have investments in Canada's west. I hope they support that at least. In Canada's east. It's a jobs focus. It's a focus on opportunity, because opportunity leads to jobs. That leads to purchasing power. That leads to affordability. That's how we build up this amazing country.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury East, Manitoulin, Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, it's true. We can't control what happens abroad, and we can't make excuses on affordability issues that stem from bad decisions from these Liberals. The Prime Minister continues to go ahead with bad policy like industrial carbon tax and the fuel standard tax that will rise to 17 cents. This applies to every Canadian, especially those who bring us our food, driving up the cost of your grocery bill even more. When will these Liberals accept responsibility for what they can control and remove policies that make life more expensive for Canadians?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary Minister of Finance.
For the Honourable Member, just yesterday our Bill C4 of affordability measures got royal assent in our Senate, which is fantastic news because that means 22 million Canadians will receive a tax cut on their income tax, saving $840 for dual income families. And families that are trying to purchase their first home will save up to $50,000 on homes under $1 million. That's good news for Canadians all across this country. We've also moved forward with the groceries and essentials benefit, which will save families just under $1,900 a month this year. That's
Central Newfoundland.
I can't believe what I heard yesterday. The housing minister blames skyrocketing housing costs on the war in Iran. Mr. Speaker, everyone knows this affordability crisis is due to 10 years of his government. Canadians are facing the worst food inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Yet this Prime Minister is pushing ahead with his industrial carbon tax and his fuel standard tax that will rise to 17 cents a litre. When will these Liberals stop blaming events abroad and take responsibility for policies at home to make life more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome back to the member opposite. The last time we heard from that member, Mr. Speaker, you'll recall we established a permanent national food program for 400,000 children. What was his response? He said it was garbage, Mr. Speaker. How dare he stand up and talk about affordability, and yet when we want to feed children, what does he say? He calls the program garbage. Silliness. That's what the member's all about, Mr. Speaker. Get on board. Support the budget.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the worst food inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Rising unemployment rates now. Canadians are facing a serious cost of living crisis. Grocery prices are skyrocketing. Paychecks are stretched so thin right now, they don't cover the cost of the basic necessities. Canadians deserve an economy where hard work pays off. When will these Liberals take responsibility for their punishing taxes and their policies?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to fight for Canadians like Paul Britt, Steve McQueen, Pat Allen, Gordie Vale, and Canadians from coast to coast to coast. On this side of the House, we're going to focus on building the strongest economy in the G7. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? We have one of the fastest growing economies in the G7, best net debt to GDP in the G7, one of the best credit ratings in the world. Wages are outpacing inflation. Mr. Speaker, Canadians made a choice. They elected a leader with strong economic and business credentials versus a leader, conservative leader, who's never worked one day in the economy.
Progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
We want development. We just don't want corrupt liberal development. Garbage! Silliness! Why is every new liberal government corrupt?
There's a lot of noise coming from that side. I know there's some coming from the end over there, and I've got my eye on a certain member over there, but there's a lot of noise coming from that side. So, okay, the Honourable Minister may continue, but please let's keep it down.
No matter how many liberal governments there are, why is it the same corruption?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of order. There was some very unparliamentary language.
And talk about affordability, and yet when we want to feed children, what does he say? He calls the program garbage. Silliness. That's what the member's all about, Mr. Speaker. Get on board. Support the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, I withdraw my comment by telling the truth that the answer was bovine excrement.
The first time nobody heard it. The second time, unfortunately,